Welcome to episode 520 of the Geek House podcast, formerly known as The Movie Show. This week's episode continues the isolation series where the entire planet Earth seems to be in lockdown and features me having a near hour-long conversation with American film producer, director, screenwriter James Cullen Bressack. Hope you enjoyed the show and do check out some of James's movies.
This is Anthony Alex from the Angry Mailman podcast, and you're listening to another fine show from the From Page to Screen Media Empire.
Hey guys, this is Ace Marrero from the movie Madison County.
Hi, this is David L.G. Hughes, writer-director of the film Hall Bowl Suites.
I love the pace and the fastness, and I love the fact that you just roll with it.
Hi, I'm Eric England, the director of Contracted.
Hi, I'm J.K. Amanu, the writer-director of Deviation.
Hi, I'm Brando Benetton, director of Knife Fire.
My name is Nathan Whitehead, and I wrote the music for Beyond Skyline.
Hi, this is Ben Lloyd Holmes from the film The Expedition.
This is Dominic Burns, the director of Allies.
Hey, Stuart, PageToScreen.com up in my bunk, please. Snooch, yeah, that's my motorcycle running and tracking over motherfucking Snooch. Jamie's with Dom, eating pizza and pussy.
I'm Neil Johnson. I directed Road Warrior and The Time War, and I crucified Adolf Hitler.
From Page to Screen movie cast.
So, hi, how are you doing, James? How in this crazy world is lockdown treating you?
Hey, how are you? It's I'm trying to remain positive and creative. I've been staying home, just like pretty much everybody, and I'm just trying to keep my wheels turning. So I just downloaded. I signed up for this masterclass series where you could watch like Martin Scorsese and Ron Howard and Werner Herzog, give hour-long lectures. So I've been watching those. And then I started my own comic book series. So I wrote it and right now I'm working with an artist on the first issue. Because I want to just, be doing stuff and I'm putting together a movie, or at least trying to, that I can shoot from home. So I'm just trying to stay busy. That's the best way to say it. Watching a lot of movies, a lot of Netflix, and playing a lot of video games.
So did you go through, because I know I did, went through like the first couple of weeks, or certainly the first week when it went from we would like you to stay at home to, you've definitely got to stay at home now, where I didn't feel very creative. So I would still watch TV and stuff, but I had no energy to write or to do any editing. But then that kind of, after a week or so, that went out the window, and I'm like, right, now I need to write everything and edit everything and tidy my computer up and do all this, and staying super creative. Did you go through any time where you weren't being as super creative as you are now? Or
I've been doing a lot of podcasts, like this one. I've been going on a lot of them since this started, just because I was on a promotional tour for Jennifer, which I produced and Jody Barton directed, which was released right before, right at the beginning of this lockdown. But it's on VOD. But the biggest issue that I faced is, in the beginning, I thought this was just going to be like a week or 2 weeks. So in my head, I was just like, oh, well, I can just kind of veg out for a week or 2 weeks and get back to work, business as usual. But obviously that's not the case. And the more that started to sink in of, that we are going to be I'm not going to be able to make movies in the same sense that we have in the past, with large crews and stuff for quite a while. It made me reevaluate how I can remain creative in the interim.
Because here in the UK, it's like we had 3 weeks of lockdown, right? So 3 weeks, nobody does anything, right? And then a week or so ago, it was like, right, now you've got another 3 weeks. So we got another 2 weeks of that, and it's like we don't know. I think that's the hard part, isn't it? Not knowing how long it's going to be.
Yeah, listen, I haven't left my house in 38 days other than 2 trips to the grocery store.
Wow. Do you find, though, you get used to not going out? I found that. It's like, I'd be a bit lost. I think when this is all over, you take the virus side of thing out of the equation, because obviously that's why we're doing it, and it's horrible and all that sort of stuff. But I'm getting used to not leaving the house other than just for essentials.
I mean, listen,
So,
for the first time in my life, I'm looking up recipes and I'm learning how to cook for myself. I'm
learning new
I was
skills.
never much of a cook, and I'm learning new skills.
And I think it's also making us change our priorities, isn't it? I think things we would have spent our money on previously, maybe we probably won't after all this is over. God, you know, I don't really need that.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'm still, there's, even with the millions and millions of, things of content out there on YouTube and all of the different streaming platforms, I'm still running out of things that I want to watch.
Really?
Which is the thing that, I think Netflix had touched on this a long time ago, but there's niche markets. There's people that like certain stuff. And you go through a perfect example is I love Family Guy. I love, The Simpsons, and I love Futurama, and I love, South Park and American Dad and Rick and Morty. I've watched all these episodes. I've watched all of it. So it's having more shows like that, I've already burned through all that. No more exists than what I've seen.
It's kind of freak. When you put it like that, I'm kind of freaked out as well now. Luckily I've got a lot of backlog of things that previously I never had the time to watch. Too many shows on the go, so I've created a list of 10 TV shows, and I will watch a new show once one of these 10 I've caught up on. And so far, I think in the past week, I've finished 3 seasons of a show. So that's working for me. But
nice.
But for video on demand, it's incredible at the minute because previously people would go to the cinemas generally, or they would go into a Walmart, they'd buy a Blu-ray and stuff. But with all these video on demand movies out there, and there's a whole bunch of them, it is a great time to just check out some of those. So it's
I mean, there's a lot of movies I was looking forward to that I'm curious if they'll go to on demand.
Yeah, because they tested the waters, didn't they, with Invisible Man and Bad Boys and stuff like that. So I think there's certain ones that I wouldn't really want to watch video on demand. So, I have no interest if they decided to put Top Gun 2 out on that. I want to watch that on a big screen, or Mission Impossible. I want to watch that on a big screen as well. But some horror films and thrillers and dramas and comedies, I could probably watch that on my 55-inch screen.
I would watch Candyman at home right now.
Yes, I would. What's your thoughts on the reboot? Are you looking forward to that one? Or are you just curious? Or?
I'm curious. I'm definitely curious. I'm curious because I think that Tony Todd's in it, or at least it looked like he was in the trailer.
Yeah, I've heard he's involved in it. I don't know to what level, but I know that he's in there somewhere.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I like that original series. So,
because I think it's the 3 of them, the original series. I think if there's more than 3, then I've only seen 3.
I've only seen 3 also, so I'm unsure.
Yeah, let's go with the fact there's only 3 of them. So that's good. But you've been busy because you've set up an Etsy store as well. Was that something that was running beforehand, or is that one of your projects that you've come up with?
I set up an Etsy store because basically, I have so many copies of all of my movies, and on DVD. Some of my older ones, like Hate Crime, are out of print now. Once they're no longer manufacturing new copies of it. Hate Crime was banned in the UK a few years ago by the BBFC, but so I'm just kind of it's something to keep me occupied for my house. I'm able to sell signed copies of my movies essentially.
Because I like I follow a lot of accounts on Twitter, but yours it's very varied, and I love that. So it's you'll be asking for recommended horror movies that maybe people aren't aware of. So I'm like, oh, that gets my brain thinking about what horror movies could I chip in. And I did sit down for quite a few minutes thinking, which one should I throw in? But I think I ended up with Eden Lake. I recommended that one, so I don't know if that's.
Oh yeah, I love that movie. That's early Michael Fassbender. Yeah,
I was going to go with The Seasoning House by Paul Hyatt. but I don't know whether I wouldn't class that as a film that nobody's seen, but it's a very good one if you've not seen it. So
the problem I have is most of the movies I would recommend, I don't know where people would find them.
So, for example, do you find that you like the more obscure horror films then?
Yeah, when I was younger, what I did is I would just go on I'd go on Amazon or eBay and I'd look for out of print movies. I'd literally search out of print, and I'd look for the obscure movies because I liked the idea of seeing horror movies that nobody else could see. There was something dangerous about it. So I mean, I have a DVD copy of Schramm, which is a completely crazy German horror movie. I have a lot of really, really disturbing, crazy horror movies, and before it was re-released on Blu-ray, I had like the original DVDs of Necromantic 1 and 2.
I think Arrow released in the UK Necromantic 1, and I watched it, and I'm like, this is one of the strangest films I've ever seen. I don't know if I finished it because it was just like, it was very bizarre.
I liked it. Film. I thought it was unique. It had its own unique, style and look and feel to it. I mean, it was gross as hell, but it just, I liked how it was transporting me to a unique experience and world.
So I was looking on my website, which I've been running for years, and I posted in 2015 one of the stories about the BBFC falling out with hate crime and thinking that it was going to bring down the world. And the BBFC used to be like that at one point. It just, ban everything. I think it was around the time of the Human Centipede 2, I think, at the same time. And so, yeah, I found your name mentioned on my site way back when. So it was, so how...
Yeah, it's strange. It's strange that it got banned. Human Centipede 2, that, and The Bunny Game were like the three movies that got banned during that time.
I think the BBFC over here, they do go through phases where they go, right, let's just pick on a couple of films and then the tabloids there's certain tabloid newspapers over here that just pick up on it and run with it and presume that people are going to watch a film and then run out and kill people and all that sort of stuff. I'm not a massive fan of the censorship things over here, especially in the digital age. You could ban a film all you want, but if people really want to find a film, they will find a way. You just import the DVD from another country or something. So it's not really.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen Hate Crime?
I watched Hate Crime way back. Well, I haven't seen it for a few years, and I don't even know. Maybe you'll know whether it is available in the UK or not. But I saw it way back when.
It's never gonna. It's been permanently banned in the UK. Yeah, it's never going to be available over there.
And I didn't run out and murder anybody, so I'm all good. It was. I think the BBFC gets scared of what they think people will. They get offended on other people's behalf.
Yeah, I mean,
they go, people might get upset by that, so let's do them a favor and tell them what to watch.
I mean, I find it strange because obviously, like I'm Jewish, and so I have a giant Star of David on me. So I'm Jewish and I made a horror movie about what would scare me. And, I had done like a lot of research on the fact that there was a rise in hate crimes in the U.S. And now, mind you, like when this got banned in 2015, I made this in 2012. So it took 3 years for somebody to give it a chance in the UK, thinking that it wasn't going to get banned. And then it did. Because everybody was worried that it was. But I think all of it's ridiculous because the main message of the film is it was trying to point out the rise in hate crimes in the U.S., especially anti-Semitic hate crimes, at an alarming level. And the thing that's really interesting is like now you look at the world today, like, it's way worse than it was then. And it's even more poignant. I mean, you had people running, walking through the streets holding tiki torches, yelling, "The Jews will not replace us." I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
And it's like you make a film to show that there is a rise, so you need to watch out for this because it's on the increase. And then they go, "Oh, well, the smart move is to not let anybody see that." No, the smart thing is to let everybody see it. So then they know that hate crimes are on the rise and they can help stop them.
Yeah, I mean, and it was interesting because there was a lot of detractors saying that it was like alarmist, that like, hate crimes are not as bad on the rise as we think. But like, I mean, looking back at then and look at the history that's followed since then, like, you tell me if we were right in what we were trying to say.
Yeah, I think you were right in what you were trying to say. I think they were very wrong in banning it. But so I've been sort of following your name pretty much ever since. I've become familiar with your name, and I think we did a Spending Time With interview in 2017, which was interesting. So one of my many online interviews. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for taking the time to chat with me.
So doing a bit of research, you've got a tattoo that you showed Eli Roth. What is the story on that one? That was interesting.
Oh, where did that come up? I have an elite hunting tattoo on my chest. I have a bunch of different horror movie tattoos on me. So I have like a pinhead, and I have Red Rum, and I have Freddy, and I have Chucky. I have the symbol from Kill Bill, and a bunch of different stuff. But I have the elite hunting tattoo from Hostel, and I showed it to Eli because I've worked with Eli before. He's a very, very nice guy.
Yeah. What was the first horror tattoo that you ever had?
The first one I got was of my own movie, MPJ, My Pure Joy. I got those initials.
Okay. And then it just became like a bit of an addiction, and you're like, I need to keep doing it. It became like a theme, didn't it? A bit of a style by the side of it. It's like horror movie tattoos.
I love horror movies for one, but for two, I mean, for me, I just love, I like tattoos, I like art, and I like the idea of, using my body as like a canvas of my life. So like, what's important to me at different moments in my life, I have tattooed on me so that like, ultimately like it can be read and seen, and you could see like the path of somebody's life through their tattoos. That's the way I look at it. So, I don't get tattoos going, oh, I wonder how I'm going to feel about this in 60 years. I get tattoos going, this was important to me and meaningful in this moment in my life.
Yeah, of course.
And it's an important life moment to show what shaped me as a person.
And it's probably like that with filmmaking as well, I would have thought. I don't think anybody would make a film go and wonder how this is going to be received in 20 years. You go, this is the film I want to make now. This is the film that I think people should see now.
I mean, there's also the thing with films, like it depends on like what point in your life you see a movie. Like a perfect example is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. When I first saw that movie, I didn't like it. I didn't get it. And then, when I was older and I had been in love and lost love and then saw that movie again, I was like, wow, it had a whole completely different meaning and experience for me. And then, I watched it like a couple years ago, and it again took on a different life and different meaning. And that's the thing about art. We project our own personal experiences onto the screen in order to draw meaning. We look at what we've watched and what we've seen of other movies, and we have to draw from our own life experiences. And that's what makes people go, oh, well, that wasn't realistic, or that was realistic, or that was great. Everybody has different opinions because they're looking at something through the lens of their own experience in their own life.
It's like listening to music, isn't it? You could sit two people down, listen to the same piece of music. One will love it, one won't. That type of thing. Well,
yeah, because that's art. Art is subjective. But the thing about it is, that's one thing about. I don't make my movies going, what's somebody going to think about it in 50 years? But I do, make my movies from my heart and from my own experiences, and hopefully, when people see them, they're able to, connect.
So when did your first sort of? Obviously you've always been a movie lover, from the tattoos to the music to all the stories and stuff. But what do you think were the triggers for you deciding to be a filmmaker? I mean, I read one quote that it was your father Gordon. He said he told you were going to be a filmmaker before you knew you were going to be a filmmaker.
Yeah, you know, when I was really young, I mean, I'm talking like 3 years old. My dad was writing on a TV show called Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys, and he had a character named Rhesus 2 that was voiced by Malcolm McDowell, and he was, you know, on a phone call talking about, you know, what they're going to do for one of the next episodes. And I asked him, well, you know, what about Rhesus 1? And he's like, oh, that's a perfect idea for the episode. And so that character ended up being played by David Warner, and my dad brought me to the recording session for that episode for the cartoon. And I at 3 years old walked up to David Warner and was like, I created you. And so my dad, you know, pulled me aside and was like, you're going to be a filmmaker, kid. And, you know,
that's amazing.
I thought it was funny. And, you know, growing up, you know, my dad loved movies. So that was the thing that him and I really connected about. I mean, he also loved baseball. He was like my baseball coach, but we really connected with film. And, you know, he got very sick when I was younger and recovered, but for years he was, you know, bedridden, and all we could do was watch movies. So we would watch movies and talk about them, and, you know, we would have conversations about why certain things worked. And, you know, he was grooming me to be a filmmaker essentially. And we talked about story structure a lot. And so when I got, you know, my dad passed away a couple months ago, 6-7 months ago at this point, back in August, unless my math's off, but back in August. And, you know, he definitely shaped my life into wanting to be a filmmaker. I think, you know, the real moment, one of the real moments is I remember I was like 12 years old, and my dad took me to go see Kill Bill Volume 1 in theaters, opening weekend. And the ticket taker stopped my dad and said, "Are you sure you want to take your kid to see this? There's extreme amounts of violence and foul language and all this stuff." And my dad goes, "Yeah, that's why I'm taking him to go see it." he walked me in, and I remembered, like, you know, there was that nervousness. Was I going to get in to see this movie, even though I had a ticket and I was with my dad? And then he brought me in, and I was like super quiet the whole movie, absorbed in it, because I thought like maybe I was going to get kicked out. It was, you know, my first R-rated movie in theaters. And I remember, you know, at that moment, like, I was like, there's something dangerous and special about filmmaking. There's something, you know, you get to sit and have this shared experience. And yeah, everybody has a different opinion of it, but you get to share this experience with a packed audience in a theater. And it gives you something to talk about. I absorbed that movie. And, you know, at that moment, I realized, like, you know, this is what I want to do. That excitement level.
And then look at your filmography. That's you're definitely a busy guy. It's like, you know, you're wearing various hats, so producer, writer, director, etc., editors, all sorts. So I think you definitely live movies.
I try.
Which
I try to.
Which is your favorite aspect of it? So, you know, do you enjoy, I mean, obviously the whole thing's probably great, but is there one part of it that you do enjoy more, be it the directing, the writing?
You know, of course I like writing, which is a lot of fun to visualize, but everything, but directing is my biggest passion.
And who are some of your favorite directors? Are there any that you look at and you go, that's kind of, you know, and I'm going to get onto a question about how you choose your directed style, because you have done films of different styles over the years.
Park Chan-wook, Quentin Tarantino, Takashi Miike,
nice.
Kira Kurosawa.
I've made it on my last podcast. I've made a promise by next week I will have watched The Seven Samurai, which I have never seen in my entire life.
Oh, it's a great movie.
Yeah, I'll just. There's so many, isn't it?
There's so many. Robert Rodriguez.
Just throws it at you.
Robert Rodriguez. Yes. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty decent enough list.
That's a very decent enough list. So
Stanley Kubrick.
With the camera. Yeah, which is your favorite Kubrick film, if there is one?
A Clockwork Orange.
See, my other half, she won't watch that because of the whole. I mean, again, it's the UK freaking out and banning films again. So I think she believes it's more violent than it in fact is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very subversive and dangerous, but it's not graphically as violent as an episode of The Walking Dead or whatever now, is it?
Yeah.
Or Gangs of London. If you get a chance to watch that show, that's amazing. That's just airing at the minute by Gareth Evans.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's great. I love The Raid and The Raid 2.
Well, it's Gangs of London. It's a 9-episode TV show that's just aired. He directs the 1.5-hour pilot, and you can tell it's from the guy that did The Raid because it's.
I'll check it out.
Like
I've seen the trailer. I've seen the trailer, but I haven't. I'll check it out.
Excellent. So with your camera style, so the shooting style, because you've done various, how do you decide what style, or is that an instinct that comes to you? You go, this is the story, be it like Hate Crime or for Jennifer or, To Jennifer. How do you then choose the way you're going to film that one?
I mean, I think the story is what informs the style. The story informs, my decision making and my own life experiences inform my decision making. Me making my decisions, the decisions I make are going to be unique to me. And that's what people would interpret as style. I think, my advice, and I tweeted this earlier, but my advice is to people, filmmakers wanting to create a style for themselves, is to not struggle to find something that makes them unique, because they already are unique. Just make the movie how you would make it and make the decisions you would make. Your life is going to inform your style. So, I mean, ultimately, my life informs how I think the story should be told. And, it's just when I read a script, I start to visualize it and I start to see it, or when I'm writing it, I start to see it, and how I see it in my head is, that's my carnal instinct of what I want the movie to look like. And obviously that changes when you're collaborating with people, but the idea of it still stays the same. It lives inside you. So I think, the instincts that I have are based upon, the movies that I watched growing up, the experiences I had in my life, the relationships that I choose to focus in on the stories that I tell are very, similar to relationships that I've had in my life or have seen in my life, or things that scare me, or things that confuse me and I want to explore deeper. So it's stuff that I find interesting, and how I relate to it, and where I place the camera feels natural to place it there based upon how I've seen it in the world around me, or how I picture it when I think about it.
Your Twitter account is, and I mean this sincerely as well, is like a film school. Because certainly during the lockdown period, I've seen a lot more of your tweets, and I saw the one earlier today about the style, and then so everybody should follow you on Twitter. They should definitely do. It's interesting.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind of you. If anybody wants to follow me on Twitter, follow me at James Cullen B.
And they will do. I will also put that Twitter name in the show notes as well. So if anybody's, not that anybody's driving around, because you shouldn't be, but if anybody's not near a pen, you can get that.
Yeah, definitely.
So for Jennifer, Jodie Barton taking over the directing, or doing the directing.
So I did not write it. Jodie, he wrote it, and basically he was in the first movie To Jennifer. He played Martin in the first one, and basically, I let him run with it, and I read the script that he wrote, but all of it is based on a world and characters that I created, if that makes sense.
Right. Yes, it does. Do you get so if somebody's writing something that sort of came from original characters you create, is there ever a sort of sense of nerves where you're like, please be good? I mean, it is. So it is good.
I mean,
good. But
the thing that I have, thank you, by the way, for watching it. But the thing that I have is, I believe in film is like such a high art form, and ultimately I'm very I believe in like paths in life. And personally, I mean, this might sound crazy, but if I'm not the one writing it, it means that it's not my story to tell. If I'm not the one directing it, it means it's not my story to tell. So when somebody starts taking those characters and is writing it, and we agreed that they're going to do it, I've put my faith in them because I believe that they have a story to tell. And so, part of producing and working with somebody as a filmmaker when you are not the director or writer of it is understand that it's not your turn to tell the story. It's somebody else's. And they have this burning inside them to let their story out. So it's not about my vision of it anymore. It's about what story they're telling and their vision of it.
I suppose also it's a lovely compliment, isn't it? If somebody comes to you saying, do you know what, this film you did or these characters you created, I love them so much, I want to do my own thing with it and carry it on. You're not going to go, what? What's the matter with you? That's going to be a cool feeling, I would have thought.
I think it's cool because especially the Jennifer series, in my mind, it's like a passing of the torch. All of us, it was my third movie, and I, at the time when I made it on an iPhone. I was flat broke. I had a $500 budget, and it was made out of necessity. I had a movie that the one time I ever did a Kickstarter, it fell through, and I wasn't getting hired, and it was my last chance to make a movie, and I said, crap, I'm just going to pick up a phone and do it. Like I just, I'd spent so much time preaching, this is what you have to do. And, you have to go out there and just make stuff. That was the advice I always gave people. And I was like, well, now it's time to take my own advice and practice what I preach. It's, it's one thing to say it, and it's another thing to live it. And so I decided to live it. And I made that movie. And, from there, I continued making movies, which, it got me through that snowstorm of that waiting period, which is the hardest part in filmmaking is the time in between movies when you're not doing something. I've always said that I don't get paid to direct the movies and make the movies. I get paid for the time in between where I have to deal with all the bullshit.
Yeah.
And, and so the thing is that, the next director who did the second one was Hunter Johnson, and Hunter, he's gone and done a bunch of movies. We've done 2 documentaries together and stuff, but 2 Jennifer was the second one, the number 2 Jennifer. That was his first feature. And then Frank Merle, who worked on the series and edited the second one and was involved, he directed the third one, and that was his second feature. He had done, a well-established movie a few years earlier, The Employers, which is a pretty cool movie. You guys should check it out. Malcolm McDowell and Billy Zane. But this was his foray into more of like a comedic film. And then Jodie had acted in my movies for almost a decade, and it's a strange thing to say at 28 years old that I can say I've been doing this for a decade, but ultimately it was his turn to tell the story, and it was his first movie, and so part of this is believing in the voices that have not quite expressed their stories yet. If that makes sense. So it is a passing of the torch, and it is a moving forward, and that we're responsible as filmmakers, especially when we have any type of success at all and we start moving forward in any way, to send the elevator back down. I didn't have people when I was starting that were helping me out and help me get places or anything like that, but that doesn't mean that I have to deprive other people from that ability if I'm able to. And so I pride myself on this series because I feel like I'm helping cultivate, new voices, and I look forward after this is all done to continue the series if possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of similar. I'm not going to compare myself to you because you've made dozens and dozens of films, and I'm at the very early stage. But we go back to the time when I posted the story about the BBFC and hate crime. I had a website and a Twitter account and a podcast, and that was it. And then since then, I've branched out, and I'm currently editing my own narrative films. And this afternoon, I had a conversation with somebody else who's trying to make their films, and I was doing that. I will help you out, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, and passing the torch. So I'm a firm believer in doing that. The elevator going back down type thing.
I completely agree, because personally, the way I look at it, and I've said this in multiple interviews, but the difference between look at my movies. Like you have one of my movies where, let's say, one of my biggest budget movies, we're talking about like $1.52 million, right? The difference between that and a $500,000 movie is much closer than that movie and a Marvel movie. You know what I mean? So like the $500,000 movie and the $2 million movie, it's still in the same thing. And we're even the $500,000 movie, they're all in that same budget category. It's low budget independent film. But then you look at something like, those Marvel movies, they have hundreds of millions of dollars. You see what I'm saying? So like ultimately, we're all as indie filmmakers, we're all pretty much at the same level. If any of us try to say that we're at like a higher level, it's just minutia. You know what I mean? So until you've broken past that, we're all colleagues, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think it would scare me to do a $200 million. I wouldn't know where to start. I'd just give them 195 and 199 and a half back. There you go. I don't want it.
I want to do this. I'd love to do a Marvel movie. I'd love it.
Is there any specific sort of type of one that you would like to do? So I'll have a Black Widow one or an Iron Man one or something.
If I could pick any comic book, I would tell DC I want to make Lobo.
Okay, that's not one I'm familiar with, but yep.
Yeah, I would want to make Lobo, and I'd have Jeffrey Dean Morgan play Lobo.
Oh, nice. He would. That would work. He could play anything, I think. Jeffrey Morgan.
Lobo is a basically DC's answer to Deadpool. It's DC. He's like a biker that is like an alien that's a bounty hunter, and he curses and kills a lot of things and is pretty ridiculous.
So get that up and running, get Negan in it, it'd be right.
Yeah.
He would nail that, I would have thought. So, look, filmography-wise, documentary. I see one of those on your list.
As a director or producer, I did produce two documentaries.
As a director.
You're talking about D&D.
Yes, I wasn't going to pronounce it because I knew I would have got it wrong.
Yeah,
it's like I know that I'm going to mess up pronunciation up.
That's just me fiddling with doing something in a non-narrative format, exercising the filmmaking muscle, and I'm making something in the style of Koyaanisqatsi, which is an experimental film, and so it's labeled as a documentary because there's no acting in it, but it's essentially an experimental film. With
so where
no
did
actors.
the sort of thing for that? Where did that come from? Was that did you just sort of think, right? I just feel the need to experiment. Obviously,
that's me in this lockdown. I'm trying to figure out something to do. That's me just going, well, I might as well try and make an experimental thing.
And how's it going so far?
It's like any quilt. It has stitches, but it's not quite together yet.
So are you looking forward to? Because I have a suspicion that when lockdown ends, everybody's going to be all rushing out, and there's going to be no film crews anywhere because they're all going to be super busy. How do you think this is all going to work with films getting back up and running? Do you think there'll be a lot of smaller films coming out, or do you think it will be, I don't know. It's kind of a weird world we're living in at the minute.
I choose not to speculate because, right now everything's ever changing, and I would not want to seem, alarmist in the circumstances. But, I look forward to a day where I'm able to get back to work, doing what I love in the way that I love to do it. Definitely.
And I think in the meantime, just keep doing what you're doing and just building up the writing pile and the project pile, so that when we all can go back outside, we can all start filming stuff again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm working on this comic book series because I'm thinking like, okay, well, I can make these comic books pretty much as my storyboards for when I do make these movies, if I do make them. But the comic book series is it's a fun series because it's all of my horror movie concepts that I never fully fleshed out into movies because, people said it would be too ridiculous or too crazy for somebody to want to see a movie like this. And I just was like, well, let me make a comic book series with these ideas. So every issue is its own short horror story.
What is the sort of time scale for that? Is there one set, or will it be, it'll be ready when it's ready?
The first issue
will be... I tell people about my films.
The first issue will be available in a month and a half.
Nice.
So it's
that's quick.
Sorry, I had a hiccup.
Oop. It's all right.
It'll be available in a month and a half. And then hopefully every 2 months after that, I can have another issue for everybody.
Nice. So is this a side effect of the lockdown where you're like, right, comic books, this will keep my brain ticking over? Or is this something that would fall into the line of, I'd like to do a comic book, but I've never really got the time to do it, but now we've got the time?
Yeah, pretty much. It falls into that. And also, I mean, those are going to be sold exclusively through my Etsy store. It's part of why I set up the Etsy. And it's, I'm going to be releasing these comic books through there and doing like limited runs, like a limited amount of them. So like, the first run is going to be like 300 issues, like 300 copies. That's it.
And will you ship internationally?
I'm going to ship everywhere. I'm set up to ship.
Good.
I'm set up to ship. So, I think, it's going to be a fun series, and I'm self-publishing them. So I'm going to keep costs low. I mean, that's the thing is like, I try to keep costs low on all my stuff because I don't want to take advantage of the fans. I want them to be able to get their stuff. So even the DVDs and Blu-rays that I'm selling of my movies, I'm pricing them with my signature at around the same price you would get them on Amazon for. Right.
And obviously some of them we can't even get on Amazon here in the UK, so I don't think your Etsy store is definitely the place to go to, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And I mean, I certainly can't get them signed on Amazon, so that's an added bonus as well.
Yeah, well, I was actually convinced to do the Etsy store by the Soska sisters. They told me to do it, and I said, okay.
The Soska sisters are, and I mean this is 100% compliment, they are the craziest women I've ever met. I had the pleasure of hanging out with them last October, I think it was, in Manchester, and I had an interview scheduled with them, and it was 2 hours later than it should have been, and because they were busy meeting fans, and not for a second did any of their energy wane. From the first person they met to the last person they met, they were still just, I don't know how they functioned. It's just like, just super hyper. They're amazing.
Yeah, they're great. I've been very close with them. I think they're very special people.
Well, I had all these little questions written out, and I think on my little interview with them, I said I had all these questions, but I'm getting rid of them. I'm just going to sit and chat to you for half an hour. And they were super cool, but they're inspirational as well, aren't they? So they are doing the elevator thing as well, or they would probably call it the elevator. So where they will send it back down and help other people. They gave me a whole ton of advice when I was chatting to them. So it's. I think it's cool when other filmmakers know other filmmakers. It's like, I love the fact that I imagine you sitting down and having a chat with them, and them going, do an Etsy story. All right, then. Cool.
Yeah, they're the ones that told me to get on that. So I was like, okay, great. Yeah, they're awesome. I love those two.
So yeah, what have you got planned for the rest of your week then? I'm back to work on Tuesday. I'm working from home. That's kind of very weird.
Just looking over this comic book stuff and working out. I've been working out at home and dieting. I've lost about 19 pounds during this lockdown.
Wow.
that's just all from cooking my own food, eating healthy, and working out. So
there you go. And so I'm doing the same. I'm inadvertently dropping weight because I am eating less because I'm not going out walking or as much. I'm not burning off energy, so therefore I don't need to eat as much and so on.
Yeah.
So it's so I think you've got to look at some positives of this whole crazy world, and otherwise I think you could all go nuts, couldn't you? Just sit staring at the news all day.
Yeah, no, definitely. You definitely could. I try to allow myself, maybe 30 minutes a day to look at what's going on.
Yeah, I do. We have daily briefings here in the UK. It's at 5:00, and I watch them, and then that's it. Then I don't need to pay attention. I don't go on Facebook to get the news because that's all wrong.
Yeah.
So if somebody is not familiar with your movies, what one would you choose to be a good entry point?
It depends on what kind of movies they like. I've quiet kind of done a movie in each genre. So it depends on what kind of movies they like.
So let's go horror.
I would say, the best way to get introduced to my horror movies, it really depends on like how extreme you like your horror. But I would say either start with Bethany or start with Pernicious.
Yep. Bethany was going to be my choice, actually.
I would say Bethany or Pernicious are the places to start. And then from there, you can choose which way you want to branch to the more indie crazy stuff like Hate Crime and My Pure Joy, and to Jennifer, or if you want to go to my more developed stuff, more like Bloodcraft, or checking out something like Blood Lake, or moving on to my movie like Beyond the Law, which is a more commercial action thriller starring Steven Seagal and DMX.
Because you've reunited. Well, they're reunited since the Exit Wounds. They were in.
Yeah.
So they're back together again. So thank you for that. That's cool.
Yeah.
But I was going to choose Bethany because that's probably the one. I haven't seen Pernicious, so I'll check that out because that was your second recommendation. So I'm going to put that on my list.
Go through my my IMDb, and anything you want to watch that says directed by. I have online screeners. I can send you an online screener for it for free. So you could literally choose as many as you want. I can just send you Vimeo links for all of them.
Containment entertainment. I like it.
Yeah,
it's good. But no, I shall definitely do that, James. So one final thing, and one of the sweetest things that I read was, and it involves the phrase "Let's ask Emmy." Is that a true story? I really hope it is, because it was one of the nicest. It put a big smile on my face.
It is.
When I read
It's a true story. Yeah, my dad and I used to write together. We wrote Cargo, which is my animated movie, together, and we wrote another movie called Oliver Storm and the Curse of Sinbad's Treasure. We wrote together, and then we actually wrote a horror movie called Rio Muerte, which part of what I need to do during this lockdown is finish it, because we didn't quite finish it. So we had outlined the whole thing, but we never finished the full script. So I have to finish that for my dad and me. But I remember, when him and I used to write together, anytime we'd have any type of disagreement, I'd be like, well, he should say this. And he'd be like, no, he should say this. I'd be like, no, Dad, like, this is how it should be. He goes, ooh, I have a great idea. Why don't we ask Emmy? Emmy, what do you think? And he'd gesture to his Emmy, and then I'd say, Dad. And then he'd go, hold on. And what do you think, other Emmy? And he would gesture to his, and then he'd gesture to the third Emmy. And two of them are at my house now, but it was
and then that would end the conversation.
Yeah, just be like, well,
I can't reply to that. Fair point, you win, Dad.
Yep, there you go. Well,
but
I guess
I'm so glad that story is true.
Yep,
it was great.
Yes, my dad. My dad used to say a lot of things that are very quotable. One of the things that he used to say, which I find hilarious, is, do you want to know why I'm able to push your buttons so well? I installed them.
Oh, that's good. Yep, I like that. That may get used in the UK as well now. Yep.
Yeah. So he used to like to mess with me a lot.
I did, and I think it may have worked. Let's ask Emmy. Yep.
Yeah.
But that was great. So I'm so glad that's true.
It definitely is.
So I want to thank you for taking the time out to sit and have a conversation with me, taking you away from your comic books and stuff like that. But I've been a fan of your work for years, and I've been following your name and the films and stuff you do, and just keep up the great work.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time to chat with me and the kind words you said about my films and everything. Thank you so much. It truly means a lot, and I apologize that we had to reschedule
No, it was okay. These things happen. It's, what am I going to do? Go out somewhere? I was all right. I was good. and it gave me something to look forward to this week.
Well, there you go. It was delayed gratification, but hopefully I was worth the wait.
You definitely are. Yep. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's like 11 o'clock at night here, so I'm talking to you from the future.
It's 3 over here, so I'm all good. But thank you so much, and be sure to send me a link and shoot me an email with what you want to watch. And again, hopefully I didn't ramble and everything, was good on the podcast for you.
Thoroughly. I always describe these as conversations that just happen to be recorded, and I've enjoyed the conversation with you.
Well, James. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed the conversation as well.